it's definitely not us right now. So,
Yeah, it's hard. So you're saying basically people need to earn over 30 grand. Majority of people need to earn over 30 grand to buy a house as it is already. What's what would you say like the worst thing when young people are buying a house that they do? Like trying to advise them on that.
It's a hard one because the only way really as a young person buying a house is like having a rich family member really. A lot of young people even with an average salary of 30 grand a year, they're probably paying rent if they're not living with their parents. A lot of people don't have that luxury, you know. Parents don't have that luxury a lot of the time, let alone the kids are just, you know, renting. So if you're paying like $900 to $1,200 to £1,500 a month in rent and you're earning an average salary,
and then you've got to save and you've got to live.
You want to save 15, 20 grand to pay 5% down.
Years,
it will take a hell of a long time, and if you have a kid, God forbid,
finish.
You're done, man. Like it won't give you any chance. And I think like if we're looking at average salaries, like I think the median average is about 33,000 across the UK, average salary. The mean is I think about 25, 26, the actual average salary in a lot of taking in the extremes there. And I think, you know, when you're looking at it from that angle, for a lot of people there isn't really much of a chance at the moment, unless, you know, these house prices do crash.
Well, and why would they crash though?
Well, at the moment, house prices are falling. You know, like we said, there's 600,000 houses empty. Eventually,
they got to afford.
Man, like they've been going up so high in the last few years. Like eventually, someone's going to catch on and be like, okay, we may want to slow down now.
Because that's faster buying as well.
Yeah. But what we got to remember is like, for those people that have been able to actually work and save that deposit money, they've gone out, they bought their dream home, they're paying off a couple £100 off their capital each month, you know, to actually reduce that balance to the bank. The house price is full. Oh shit! They now owe the bank more money than their house is worth. I managed to, you know, with my partner and my dad buy a property couple of years ago, and we got money off my grandparents, like everyone basically, you know, helped us move in and get our furniture, and we did all of that, and now we're thinking, well, if the house prices fall, we could effectively lose all of that in return, and you know, for a lot of people, you know,
and at a young age, taking that step as well.
Man. Like, I was even going to say, so you're obviously thinking about that because you're in the industry. If I was to try and buy a house now, I am not thinking about, the houses might crash. You know what I'm saying?
I'm just trying to pattern the furniture.
You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to shout
You know, and like, you know, you can work really hard. You go get that property that's your first, and you know, you settle in, you love it. You have a couple of kids and you realise, oh shit, I need another bedroom, and then you want to go. The house prices have gone up maybe, or they've gone down,
so
and you're
in.
For
example, 20. Like, would you ever say it would get as bad as you could lose 20% of your what your house is worth?
Like they're talking about like 10, 12, maybe more % at the moment. Like,
so you buy your house for 300 grand, you lose basically £30,000. More or less, innit?
Yeah, man.
The value of your house, innit? Yeah.
Or if you look at it from the fact that they bought it like 5-6 years ago, and they've made even more off that. They're now thinking, okay, if I sell my property, I paid this much off my mortgage, my house is increased by this much.
Yeah.
You know, that's effectively like their money, I guess you could say.
Yeah, okay, cool. Good.
You know, how much they're worth as people, you know, between them. And then actually the prices come down again. Their options then limited when they want to move as well. You know, for anyone who owns, you're almost hoping that the prices keep going up. For anyone that doesn't, you need them to drop right now. Otherwise,
it's literally a pyramid scheme. Everything.
It's like everyone's. It's like, you know,
it's a circle just going round and round. Like someone's losing, someone's gaining.
Yeah, but that's how it always is, isn't it? If someone's winning, or someone's always going to be losing.
Yeah,
indirectly, isn't it? So it's always going to be like that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it has to be that way with a lot of these things. Cause I think like. The big problem is education in a lot of senses. Like we said about it before, like how we're not taught properly at school about these things.
You never ever taught about it at school. It's mad.
Yeah, man.
Like they should teach you actual life skills.
Yeah. As we said already, it's like if they teach you that, a lot of people who are making that type of money aren't going to be making anymore because you already know what you're doing.
Yeah.
So it's a problem.
Yeah, so you've got people who are actively against that in a sense because they're like, well, how am I going to ever survive if that happens? Like I said, you're not really. As a mortgage advisor, you've got a CMAP. That makes you a mortgage advisor. It doesn't really make you anything else. You're not necessarily going to be good at anything else. But you can't be an accountant with a CMAP. Like, it's not transferable necessarily to the rest of the industry. So, like, for a lot of those, there are a lot of concerns right now about these sort of like online presences becoming a lot more apparent and driving people out. But people will always want to sit in front of someone, I think, and actually talk about it.
100%.
But I think when you're making so much money through them through them anyway, without the fees that you're charging, like a lot of the time charging these people isn't necessary to the profits of the company in a lot of ways. I think that would definitely help. And actually, like, when the client sits in front of you, the idea being educate them to what they should be doing. Not, well, how can I keep them, uneducated?
So I can keep basically using.
So I can keep milking that, and actually have value in what you're doing.
So what advice would you give to, like, you're moving to your next house then? So as you just said, as you were talking about, it might go down, it might go up. So what's your advice regarding that?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of different options. Like, if you're on a good income and you've got a nice amount of savings, like a lot of people are against landlords at the moment.
Yeah.
For obvious reasons. We're talking about we're talking about how much the house prices are. I mean, there is a lot on landlords that we can go into, which is probably something for later on. Yeah. But I think that a good option for a lot of people later on in life is maybe buy another property with the savings that they have behind them, rent out the one they were previously living in, or if you're sort of earlier on, you do need a bit of money behind you, because obviously if you're selling your property, you want to upscale, you need to consider the deposit you're putting down on the next property. You're paying 2 lots of solicitors' fees, because you've got to pay for the sale of the property and the purchase, because you need some dude to sit there and fill in the paperwork for you and charge you $2,500. We're in that position where everything's so complicated. That's what you have to do is pay somebody $2,500 to do that for you. Like a lot of those things have to be considered, but also if you're looking at areas and stuff like that, like if you're looking at staying in the same area and you want to upscale, your best bet might be putting an extension on. Because I mean, like if we go up to like stamp duty and stuff like that, like you could be paying a hell of a lot of money in stamp duty if you're purchasing like a property of a decent value, like especially in London when you're looking at like 500,000, 600,000, 700 grand, like when you're going up in those kind of prices, you're looking at a hell of a lot of money in tax. You're looking at stamp duties. We were talking about the mortgage advisors' fees. Like you are talking about saving a lot of money on top.
So, say for example, okay, cool. Say I'm 23, 24 right now. I'm earning just over 30 grand a year. I've got like 15 grand saved, for example.
Yeah.
And I want to buy a house. What would you tell me? Like, what's like the steps, procedures? What would you tell me?
So he comes to you with that pitch.
Yeah, I'm coming with you with that pitch.
I think the first thing you would do is start looking at the kind of properties in the area.
Okay, cool, yeah.
I think if you're getting an idea around what the kind of values are that you're looking at, whether you're looking at 1, 2, 3 bedrooms, looking at the kind of size and the value you want, I think next step is probably going and speaking to a mortgage advisor.
Okay, yeah.
Like, maybe not one that's charging you 600 quid or one that's, charging you 1,500 quid, but, shopping around and finding someone that can actually...
Yeah. So you would still recommend to people you use them?
Yeah, I definitely think it's worth speaking to an advisor. I think it's more... I don't think mortgage advisors are evil. I think that, if you don't know how to do it yourself, there isn't any way of really doing it yourself.
Yeah.
Your other option is literally going down to all of the lenders or going and Go Compare, which will still take a fee. You can do that research yourself and find out which one is going to be the cheapest option for me. But if you go to an advisor, they are obligated to find you the cheapest deal possible, in terms of the mortgage. Okay. I think a lot of it is, maybe be skeptical around the insurance that they're offering you and any additions, like, solicitors. It's a massive, massive issue. For every business I worked with, they're, conveyancers, solicitors, the people that do the paperwork. We would have to recommend those people to our customers. They would then use them. We would get a big commission as a company for doing that referral. Obviously, if it's with the same company,